This is the TriSwimCoach Podcast, where the most difficult leg of the triathlon becomes your friend, leaving your struggles and your competition behind you. TriSwimCoach.com, helping you to laugh at the water.
All right, welcome back to TriSwimCoach. This is Kevin, and this is episode number 128. And I have Chris Haig joining me again today. Hey, Chris.
Hey, Kev.
How's it going up there?
It's still cold. Still cold and still dark.
Yeah. So Chris is up in what city are you in again, Canada?
I'm in Kingston, Ontario. So it's right on Lake Ontario. And it's, I would say, about halfway between Toronto and Ottawa. If you know your Canadian geography, you know where I am. But if not, just it's the Great White North.
I saw a video recently of somebody. I did this Wim Hof breathing training a couple weekends ago, and actually I'm going to do a podcast on that later. So maybe the next one will be on Wim Hof breathing. But I saw a video in the Facebook group, somebody posted of this girl jumping into a lake that was frozen, and she didn't know it was frozen, and she's like trying to do a cannonball, and it's like just landing right on the ice. So I imagine that's how it is up there.
Yeah, it's, Lake Ontario. It's not quite cold enough for it to freeze over, but talk to me in about a month or a month and a half, and it will be.
Yeah, that's right.
Work on those open water swim skills.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Well, so we have some Q&A today. We're just going to go through some questions that came up in our TriSwimPro member group. So you get kind of a peek into what is going on in our member group. And if you join TriSwim Success, so you just go to TriSwimCoach.com, and you can click on the link to get our program, then you'll have access to the Facebook group. And so we've always got a lot of interesting posts going on there, and it's very international. There are people from all over the world, but it seems like we have a good number of Americans, especially on these. I was just looking through where everybody's from. So we're just going to go through, I think we have 5 or 6 questions. So we're just going to go through each one and answer them. And I think this will be helpful for people out there because everybody sort of has the same questions. It seems like they sort of they come up, and then it's like a month later, I get the same question, and I just kind of keep seeing the same ones.
So yeah, when those questions come up, we can point into this podcast.
Exactly. So okay, so the first question comes from Maria Sazik. I hope I said that right. And she says, "What's your best advice for the off season? How do you keep focused?"
And I think this also ties into Jonathan Schwartz's what does the off-season look like? So 2 off-season questions. The first point that I want to bring up with the off-season is to make sure that you recover enough from your previous season, especially if you're into Ironman and half Ironman and you've been racing or training heavily since early in the year. Making sure that you get enough time off right now will make sure that you are able to race well into next year instead of burning out March or April, because I know a lot of people who, after a couple days from their previous race, they're afraid about losing their fitness and seeing their CTL and their ATL and training peaks drop and losing their fitness and getting fat and getting slower. And they feel like they need to rush back into training and get right back into training so that they can, really knock out the season next year. And I think that's a huge mistake if you want to take the long-term approach. And for that, you need to take, I would say, if you're a long course athlete, 2 to 4 weeks off completely of unstructured training, do what you want, eat what you want. If you want to sleep in, sleep in. Just listen to your body and listen to what it tells you to do. So if you want to go for a bike ride, go for a bike ride. If you want to go rock climbing, go rock climbing. But just listen to your body and do what you want. Now is the time to do it because fitness will come back quickly if you give your body enough time to recover.
Yeah, I think those are some great points. And the idea of being unstructured, I think some people, especially triathletes, have a tough time with that idea because it's like, oh wait, if I'm unstructured, then I'm going to have pizza every day and I'm going to sit on the couch and I'm not going to do anything. But really it's more about, like you said, what is it that you want to do? So if you kind of set yourself up for success, which would mean that you're naturally going to kind of want to be active, you're naturally going to want to eat healthy. You may have that dessert or whatever, maybe your Thanksgiving is a little off the rails, but you're going to get right back on to what you are gravitating towards anyway. And so for the off season, we've always emphasized a few things. Like one is there's a program that we offer called the Fit Triathlete, and that takes you through sort of how to become your best self for triathlon and for life. And that starts with your psychology. And then we talk about nutrition and then the rest that you need and then workouts. So if you can sort of get that hammered, especially that psychology part, if you can sort of get that handled in the off season, then your season will look so much better and you'll have way more fun. You'll perform better. You'll look better. I mean, it's just the off season is such a great time of year, I think, to take care of all that stuff. And then we do emphasize stroke technique because a lot of times during season, you're kind of more worried about keeping your endurance up and making sure you're in shape for swimming. But then in the off season, you can take that time just to work on technique. And so it's a great time to do that. And then with the workouts part, backing off on all the volume you're doing and then doing things like strength training, like we have dryland workouts and things like that can help you to build that strength so that you don't have to, again, during season, worry about how am I going to squeeze in like all these different workouts. You can build up a lot in the off season with that.
I think the off season, if you wanted to sum it up in one word, it's all about laying the foundation. Well, after the recovery part, it's about laying the foundation for the work to come so that when you do start to get, we're far out from races. So you don't need to be race specific right now, but you do need to get all the components whether it's psychological, as you mentioned with a fit triathlete, of figuring out your why, figuring out the emotions tied into exercise and tied into eating and tied into fitness, getting those sorted out so that you are clear on those. And then also, as far as the workouts go, the physiological components that are holding you back from really achieving success later on, so that when you do start to get into more race-specific speed, race-specific workouts, that you're able to do them properly. You're able to do them with proper form in the water. You're able to not get injured because you built up the resilience and the biomechanics right now to do the volume later on.
Yep, exactly. So I think that's a pretty good wrap up of the off season, like kind of how we're looking at off season and what you might do to have your best off season. Just to kind of wrap that up, I think the consistency too is key. Is like if you start taking too much time off and not doing really anything, then that becomes sort of a habit. So it's easy to get out of shape or out of your habits, but it's better. It's much, much, much easier to just keep things up generally, like keeping active, keeping the nutrition, the eating habits going like the right way and getting enough sleep and all that. And then once your season hits, you don't have to have this huge comeback. It's like you're already there.
Yeah, and I think to go into Jonathan's questions more deeply, if I was to lay off an off-season schedule to address that question specifically, it would most likely be, and this is, as I said before, after your recovery, so you're coming in fresh, you're motivated, you want to get going, it would be most likely 4 swims a week, mostly focused on stuff that I don't necessarily do. So mixing up my strokes, working on my form, getting my swim analyzed so I know what I need to work on more, just getting in the pool, having fun, doing kick sets. So 4 swims a week, most likely 3 bike rides a week, lower intensity, so not doing anything really above threshold or above a 8 or 9 RPE, except for maybe some quick sprints, but working more on strength work, so low cadence gear, force work. And then most likely 4 to 5 runs a week. And those runs don't have to be very long, but just it's going out for a 30-minute run or a 40-minute run, or on the weekends doing a group ride or run with friends that I don't typically get to do during the season.
Yeah, perfect. Sounds like fun. All right, so our next question is from our friend Rob Sleemaker, and he says, how to effectively leverage indoor training tools like Vasa Swim Erg to save time, improve, and integration with swim training in the water. Thanks.
Ooh, this is a good one.
Yeah.
So I love my Vasa Swim Erg, and there are other quote unquote dry land tools that you can use to help you get faster in the water without necessarily getting in the water. And once again, they're supplements, so they will help you in the water, but it's still important to get in the water. Anyway, but I love my Vasa Swim Erg. I hop on it about twice a week now, sometimes 3 times a week, and especially when the pool shuts down because the lifeguards aren't able to get there, it's a great fallback for workouts. So how do you effectively leverage them? The first point that I want to bring up here is making sure that each workout has a purpose. So whether it's endurance, whether it's speed, whether it's strength, whether it's form, making sure that you hop on, whether it's the Vasa Swim Erg or you're doing stretch cords or you're getting in the weight room, everything has a purpose. And you want to leave that workout saying, did I focus just on this workout? So that you're not just noodling on a machine for an hour without really structure. So I think that's the first tip that I have to effectively leverage indoor training tools. Another good thing is getting on them consistently. So using them. The treadmill, I thought like a lot of people, they get a treadmill with, motivation saying, I'm going to, get on the treadmill every single day. But then it becomes a giant coat rack. So I think actually using the tools is my second point, is making sure that you're getting on them consistently. And you don't have to do a perfect 60-minute workout or 90-minute workout. It could be something as simple as, a 20-minute workout. And that's the great thing about these tools, is that they're always accessible. You can do them whenever you want. You don't have to wait for lifeguards. You don't have to wait for the pool, or you don't have to wait for a lane to open up. You can just get on it and knock out a 20-minute workout and see great benefits just from doing that.
Yeah, it's so awesome that we have these kind of tools now, because you think about just, even here in Southern California in the winter, it's not cold, but it does get dark at like 4:45. I mean, it's dark really early. So sometimes I'll work during the day and I get home at like 5 or 6 or something. And I'm like, I don't want to go out to the pool, but a tool like that, it's like, then I have no excuse. Then I can just, hey, I got my Swim Erg right here and I don't have to go to the pool. And it's not like, not something to do every single time, but it is a great thing to fall back on if, especially in these months.
And like, even if you don't have a Swim Erg, if you have stretch cords,
right,
put the stretch cords on your office door, and at lunch, just do a little bit of work. And this ties into my last point, is make sure that you're mindful and focused when you're doing it, so that you optimize the time that you're doing. So what I mean by mindful is that every stroke that you take, you're focused on your form and really nailing in and dialing in what that feels like and what your body feels like when you've connected, your catch and your pull, and you're keeping that elbow high. You're mindful of all of those body mechanics, so that when you do get in the pool, you've built up that muscle memory and you're like, oh, this is exactly how it felt like on the Vasa Swim Erg, or exactly how the stretch cords felt.
Oh, yeah, totally. Even like if you're struggling with any kind of shoulder problems or anything like that, those are great to keep yourself moving, keep the blood flow going, and do some of those rehab exercises. So there's all sorts of benefits to that, to using these tools. So I guess we have 2 more questions. So the next one.
I got it. Mary Burt Resendez. Excuse me once again if I butcher your name, but Mary. What can I do in the weight room that will help while I don't have access to a pool or a Vasa Swim Erg? Asking a friend who is stationed in Iraq and wants to do a 70.3 6 weeks after redeployment. So this ties into our previous question. And I think in the weight room, I think getting stretch cords would be a big one. And then because you don't have a Vasa Swim Erg, you could kind of create a mock one with using stretch cords anchored to something like a weight stack, and then getting on a bench several feet away and mimicking a swim bench with a regular weight bench and swim cord. So I think that's one way to do it. And just working on, as I mentioned in the previous question, being mindful of your stroke, really mimicking what you do in the pool on that modified swim bench. That would be my first tip. And then also modifying your stretch cords to put paddles on them instead of the regular handles.
Yeah, those are great ideas. I wonder how many people would be that creative. I think, it actually doesn't take that much, but it's...
Yeah, if you have a weight room and you have some stretch cords, and a pair of paddles, that would most likely... It's not the same because you're not getting the same resistance as something like the bench, or the customizability as something with the Swim Erg, but in a pinch like this, it's a $50 mobile solution.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's tough because it depends on how long that you're going to be doing this. Because if it's like, I got an email from someone a while back from living in some town in Mexico, and the pool's all closed for the entire, I think it was 5 or 6 months of the year. Like they were only open in the warmer months. And they're like, how can I train for this triathlon that I want to do with all the pools being closed? And they had no access to open water. And I'm like, well, that's really tough because not getting in the water. I mean, yeah, you can definitely maintain some things if you're already there doing the Swim Erg, doing a kind of a mock swim bench. But if you're just absolutely no way you can get into water, that is a huge disadvantage. And you will struggle when you get in the water, because that feel for the water is so important.
And I think recognizing that limitation, and kind of if you do decide to do that race, kind of going into that race saying, my training obviously was not ideal, but I'm not going to have any high expectations for myself in the swim. I'm just going to focus on enjoying it because, my swim training wasn't picture perfect, but that's okay. I'm going to do it anyway and just give it what I've got.
Right.
So I'm going to use the tools that I have and use what I have. So everything in my control that I can do, I'm going to do.
Yeah, exactly.
setting your expectations to be realistic, I think, is important. So getting back to the weight room, you've got the modified swim bench, also straight arm lat pull downs. And we actually have a video on this on our website. You'll have to go to our blog and put it in the search tool because it's fairly old, but there was a video a while back that I made of the straight arm lat pull down, which is a great strength building routine, kind of engages the same muscles that you want to engage during your catch and pull. And then, of course, also doing in the weight room stretch cords and kind of shoulder work to strengthen up your shoulders so that when you are able to get into the water, you don't pull anything and you have strong, supple shoulders.
Yeah, that's huge. One thing that I'll add to that is that if you are like most people and you don't use your arms above your head very often, I mean, your hands, you're not like lifting your arms up. What can happen if you're a regular swimmer is you can kind of build up what's called like a frozen shoulder. Mm-hmm. And that's just your rotator cuff not getting stretched out enough the right way. So if that's you, if you have any kind of shoulder tightness or pain, it's often this factor of not using your arms. You're during the day, you just have your arms by your sides most of the time. So what I recommend is just hanging from a pull-up bar. So this is something you can do in any gym. Just find a pull-up bar and just hang for 20, 30, 40 seconds, whatever you can do. And just do that every day. And eventually, if once you get up to about 45 seconds or a minute, your wrist will start to hurt. So you don't want that. So you just get these, they're hooks that you just kind of hook in. So it saves your wrist. And then you can hang for a couple minutes. And that will help with your shoulder stuff. And it'll also keep you kind of loose for swimming. So it's a great exercise to kind of throw in there with everything you're doing.
It actually feels pretty good. I was surprised when I first started to do it how much my back expanded and just relaxed. Yeah, it does feel good.
Yeah, cool. So Jerry has the last question. Jerry Raymer. So he's been a long time TriSwim Success member. And he says, I'm stuck at 100s. How to break through this?
I think he's hit a plateau and he's wondering how to get faster in his hundreds time. This relates to the last podcast that we had. So he's wondering how to level up. And I think the first thing that he should do is analyze what's up with his stroke. Kind of the low hanging fruit here would be figure out what with his form is slowing him down. Mm-hmm. And that, you can do that with a swim analysis. So I think that's the first point. And then once you figured out what you need to do with your form, then take a look at your workouts and think, what in my workouts are holding me back? Am I not challenging my body enough as far as speed work goes? And if that's the case, then incorporating more sprints into your workout. Is my endurance not good enough so that I can hold good form for a whole 100? And if that's the issue, then working on longer sets while being mindful of your stroke and mindful of your form through each lap and each set might be the way to break through this plateau.
Yeah, I'm going to say that those are the best places to start, what you just said. And then I'm going to add to that. I think that there's a couple things that come to mind. One is that you can actually add, if you're not doing sprints like once a week, start adding in some sprints to your workouts. And the sprints could be 25 or 50 meters, depending on how much you want to tax your body. But the sprints are actually really a lot more difficult than doing long workouts because you're just going all out for a short period of time. I would start with just go like 4 25-meter sprints. And that's a good workout. I mean, you can do warm up and do some drills and things like that, but that's kind of like a good start to doing sprints, and that'll help your body get used to going all out, like 100%. Don't do them every day though. That's not recommended. It's not a good idea. But adding in the sprints, and then the second thing is the Wim Hof breathing. So I'll talk more about this on the next podcast because I want to get into it deeply with Dominic, actually, who knows a lot about it. But the Wim Hof breathing kind of allows you to utilize oxygen a little better in your body. And what I mean by the Wim Hof breathing, you can kind of Google him and you'll find all the videos and everything. But it's basically doing like really quick breaths, like in and out, like that for maybe 30 breaths. And then you exhale all your air, hold it for as long as you can, then inhale and then hold that for maybe 30 seconds. And then you do that about 2 to 3 rounds. And I'm doing it every day now. And what it does is it sort of like allows you to process your oxygen more effectively. And then on a swim, you'll have this energy that you probably never had before. And that's a really quick overview. There's a lot more to it than that. But if you want to get into that, we've talked about it on previous podcasts. We've done blog posts on it. And then the next podcast after this one will be on kind of an in-depth view of the Wim Hof breathing and how you can benefit from that.
And I think that also trains your body, because when you're underwater and you're breathing underwater, you kind of get this panic mode. Oh, I got to breathe. But after doing a couple rounds of the Wim Hof method, your body realizes, I'm going to be okay.
Yeah.
I don't need to gasp for air. I can just rotate slightly and get a breath of air, and I'll be fine with the oxygen that's already in my system.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I mean, yeah, we could do a whole podcast on that, but it's pretty amazing. And I would say especially the beginners, but everybody can get something out of this.
Mm-hmm. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think that's about all we had today. Was there anything else that we want to cover?
I think that's it. And these are definitely not just the people in our TriSwimPro membership. We get these questions quite a bit. So I'm glad we were able to knock them out and be able to point people in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, well, hope everyone's having a great holiday season. And yeah, go out there and have a great week of training. And Chris, have a good time up in the Great White North.
I'll try.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Talk to you later.
Thanks for listening to another episode covering swimming and triathlon mastery. To get your free online swim clinic, just go to TriSwimLessons.com. Give us your name and email, and we'll have session number 1 off to you right away. Begin your process of befriending the swim and laughing at the water now.